Oh, here, please.
Red light mean? I don't remember. Is it red or white? Okay. It's 5:30, so. Is it a red light or a white light? It's flashing. Okay. Well, at 5:30 on the dot, I will call this meeting to order. And we'll start with roll call first. I'm Corey Parks. I am serving as the chair.
Josh Hamilton, Vice Chair.
Jenny Davis, Secretary.
Liz Hamilton.
Nate Johnson.
Carolyn Moix.
Jason Covington.
The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our January meeting. If there's no comments or modifications, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now we'll move to item A on our public hearing items for the Old Conway Design Overlay District. Tara?
Thank you. Item A is located at 346 Ash Street. The proposal is for a new single-family residence. It is in the suburban zone. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 2,634 square foot single-family residence. They're also proposing a concrete ribbon driveway and walkway. This is infill development, and the style of the proposed residence is minimal traditional. The proposal does not meet the front setback, as the predominant front setback is 25 feet from right-of-way. The applicant is proposing a setback of 49 feet. So the front setback needs to be between 20 and 30 feet from right-of-way. Also, there is an alley along the north side of the property that our records do not show it having ever been closed. And the setbacks need to be 15 feet from the center line of the alley, so that'll either need to be closed or a site plan will need to be submitted that shows that the proposal is in conformance with that requirement. At the current time, it's showing to be about 11 feet from the center line of the alley. The eastern side yard setback conforms to 6 feet. The proposal conforms to spacing, lot coverage, orientation. The garage is positioned, it's on the north side of the property. It is behind the front face of the proposed single-family residence, which is in conformance. I already spoke about the alley. The driveway is in conformance. A 5-foot sidewalk with green space is required for this new construction. It does appear that significant trees may be removed for construction. Any tree removed must be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio. The proposed structure is about 1,000 feet larger than other structures in the area. As I stated, the proposal is for about 2,634 square feet, and most of the structures are around 15. It meets the height, width, and directional expression. It meets the footprint, the complexity of form. The rear elevation base is visible from from an empty lot, which is owned by Central Baptist University, and then there's Center Street on the other side of that. So it is visible from the public realm. And that rear elevation lacks windows at the location of the laundry room, master closet, and a bedroom. So in that sense, even though it's not a front facade, it is a street-facing facade. And it meets the style, lighting is not indicated, but it'll need to be shielded and downcast. It meets the materials, and no HVAC is shown on the site plan, but it'll need to be screened. The conditions are that the applicant must obtain all applicable building permits. There shall be 1 tree per every 30 feet of frontage, either retained or planted. Any trees removed will need to be replanted at a 1-to-1 ratio. If beneath the power line, it shall be an understory tree, and if away from the power line, it shall be a canopy tree. Property shall be replatted prior to building permit issuance. Prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, applicant shall submit for review by planning and development staff a site plan showing appropriate front and side yard setbacks, lot coverage tabulation with driveway and internal sidewalks, tree removal, retention and planting, sidewalks and green space and right-of-way. Driveway shall be concrete pavers or permeable paving, a 5-foot sidewalk with a 6 foot and 5, I think I have that as, it's, yeah, 6.5 foot green space is required. Lighting shall be downward and inward toward the property. HVAC equipment shall be screened from public view.
Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of this? If you'll join us up here, please. And if you'll just state your name and address.
Berto Hernandez with HZZ Structures. It's 346 Ash Street.
Good.
And the setbacks, I have adjusted them because when we did the plans, I didn't really notice it that it was so far back. And of course, I'm gonna line them up with the other houses. That way, it's not behind the rest of them. But of course, if y'all can tell me where it needs to be, I can, I put them where it's 30 feet from the road, so 5 foot past the 25-foot setback now. But if it needs to be more, of course, I can adjust it. That north side, that alley or whatever, what do I need to do on that side to know where my setback needs to be?
So it needs to be 15 feet from the center line of that alley, and what you're showing right now is about 11 feet is what I estimated. So with this, because it needs to be replatted, I think once you have a surveyed lot area, it'll be a lot easier to see, like, okay, this is where the alley is, and then I need to be 15 feet from the center line, and a survey will also help with that. And then in that same regard, with the replat, when you'll need to, lining it up with the other houses will be fine. So I had estimated when I looked at the surrounding area that 25 feet was the average, so 30 feet, because you have to be within a certain percentage of that, so 30 feet would be fine. So that's from the edge of the right-of-way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just on the back side, I'm planning on putting a privacy fence.
Mhm.
Would I still have to add those windows back there? Or can I just add the privacy fence and not add the windows?
So that would be up to the window comment is more just a comment for the HTC to consider so that they're aware of it, and then it's up to the commissioner's discretion.
So beyond those, did you have any other questions on the staff recommendations?
I think
It can
that's
be
it.
questions or comments.
Mhm. I think that's it. The main thing is that north side where that's where that big tree is over there on that right side, or left side, sorry. If I know that alley, I can be a certain distance away, and I won't remove that because I saw in that it can't be, you can't remove it when it's wider than 10 inches in diameter, or
So it's significant trees are considered those that are 8 inches
8
or
inches?
more in diameter, and so the preference is that they be retained if possible.
Yeah.
So if it does not need to go away, then
Okay.
we'd rather have the old ones rather than
Mhm.
taking one out and then planting a brand new one if it's feasible.
Probably just the front ones, because those, if you can see those bottom ones, those are kind of ugly, and could we take those out?
So I would say if you could share, and Terry, you correct me where I'm wrong here, but just in the documentation that you've been asked to provide moving forward, if you could just annotate the ones that you think would go away versus the ones that you think you could contain or retain, that would be helpful.
And then you'll need to have 1 tree for every 30 feet of street frontage. So if you're removing some, then show where you're going to replace it and then meet that 1 tree per every 30 feet.
Other questions or comments? Do y'all have any questions for our applicant?
Oh, what's your intended purpose? Is this a personal investment or is it you gonna live here?
Build to sell.
Okay.
If not, Airbnb or something. I don't know. Depending on what it.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on behalf of this? Anyone to speak opposed? Okay, well then I'll bring it back into the commission for discussion then. Comments?
I think some of those trees look like they might be leaning towards neighbors, and I don't think that would be bad if some of them were selectively culled.
Yeah.
For safety's sake and.
Yeah, particularly that one that's on the property facing west photo, or no, I guess it's to the south, the right. Yeah, that one.
But that's all about the trees.
You could
Just caught my eye.
see that root ball just coming up.
Fine.
So in your report, did you mention that he potentially could have the alley closed and that would change his setback if he did that?
I did not put that in the report about closing the alley, so we could add that as a condition.
I thought you had read something in here like that.
No, I just said it. Sorry. But we could definitely add something so that it's like memorialized that, so we could add a condition that says well, actually, it would work because if they were to close that alley, prior to issuance of the certificate of appropriateness, they need to show the appropriate front and side yard setbacks. And if that alley is closed, then it wouldn't need to meet that 15 feet from the center line anymore. So I think that even in perpetuity, somebody would be able to read that there's no alley here, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So that, the other owner would get the other half of the lot.
That's
correct?
right. Yep.
Okay.
And can you remind us, is that, and closing the alley, is that something that the staff can handle administratively?
No, that needs to go to, I think it's a $2,000 fee. So that's something that, property neighbors will share, and that goes to city council.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
A motion that we accept the recommendations of the planning commission with regards to 346 Ash Street.
Is a motion, is there a second?
Second.
So before we vote, I do want to just have one clarifying question, just so make sure we're all on the same page. On the windows, is there a preference recommendation in regards to that, with the fact that there's going to be a fence on that other street?
I also wanted to point out that there's also, looks to be I don't know where he went, but, oh, hello. There looks to be a porch here as well, so I don't think that we can say that it's all blank wall. There's habitable space that's on the outside, on that east side. So I think there's some consideration to be given there, that even though there's not a window, there's still active public space that can be visible from that road. So I don't think the additional windows are necessary, especially given the need and the desire to get a privacy fence up there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a condition that we need to add, but that's just my 2 cents. Y'all can disagree.
So since a fence was not shown on the site plan, there's no conditions regarding the fence, and that's something that we should add, at the very least, that the fencing shall conform to Old Conway District
A
standards.
motion to amend the motion to add the condition that we have a 6 foot, is that right? Privacy
correct.
fence. Need a second.
A second.
Yes, so there's a motion and a second. And just to clarify, I just wanted to make sure, so then that way the applicant didn't have to hopefully not have to come back to us as they get into the construction process. So there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, and thank you for your investment in
We
downtown.
only voted on the amendment to the motion, isn't that right? Don't we have to vote on?
Oh, I heard it as amended, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just clarifying for the minutes. Do we have to vote like as a group on the amendment to the motion, or is that fine?
Yes.
So what we just voted on was the amendment to the motion, then we have to vote on the motion,
Perfect.
correct?
Yes.
Sorry, y'all.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary, for keeping us in line. All right, so.
My sorority training.
Yeah, so we have the amendment that's been voted on. Now back to the, now if we can vote on the amended motion, I'll entertain a motion for that.
No,
Or
we
as,
already got that
okay,
motion. I've
so
already
all in
given the
favor?
motions, Now we just all have to vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just want him to have his thing free and clear.
Yeah, okay. Now, congratulations and thank you for your investment in downtown. And I would just follow up with the staff to make sure that we're all on the same page, because again, we want to make sure that this is streamlined as much as possible. Lost my page. Oh, there we go. We'll now move to item B on our public hearing items. So Tara, if you want to take it away.
I have to recuse
Oh.
myself, so I'm out.
Yes. See ya. And if you'll just wait till she's, okay.
All right. Item B is located at 1140 Harkrider Street. It has a lot of layers in terms of zoning. So it is in the Northeast Old Conway Area Specific Plan, which is the zoning district. In the design standards fall under the Old Conway Design Overlay District. It is a split zone property. It is split between T5, which is urban, and T4, which is transition. The bulk of the proposal of the actual structure itself is in the urban zone, and then the parking area is in the transition zone. Area structures in the urban portion include prefabricated metal buildings, mobile food vendors, concrete masonry unit structures, and an abandoned Sonic restaurant. And actually, the Sonic restaurant's on site, so that isn't necessarily surrounding area structures. The transition zone area structures consist of mid-century minimal traditional homes and a traditional traditional brick church. The site area is a multi-acre, multi-purpose campus used by Nabholz Construction. The proposed development consists of the demolition of 4 structures and construction of a new 2-story office building and associated parking. The development will front Harkrider Street, Mill Street, and Willow Street. The office building will be in the T5 urban zone, parking in the transition zone. This is phase 1 of a multi-phase project. Any development requiring a building permit and changing the exterior will need to undergo historic district review, except where size exceptions apply. I say that because we will likely be seeing the other phases come. This project also includes platting and site development review, reviewed separately by planning staff. So in the urban zone, 80% of the principal buildings shall be within 3 feet of all property lines. The site plan is showing a 20-foot front yard setback and various setbacks that aren't necessarily in conformance with that 80% of the principal building being within 3 feet. This is because at this current time, the property is undergoing a replatting in which additional right-of-way may need to be dedicated. And with that, the architect expressed to planning staff that they wanted to account for any sort of changes in essentially the property line coming closer to where they plan to have the building. So through the plat review process, any of these issues should be reconciled. And then also this project, because it goes to site development review, these setbacks will again be looked at. So we'll see the plat, and then we will again see it in site development review, ensuring that there is conformance with those setbacks. Let's see, and an updated site plan will need to be submitted for staff review once the plat has been filed. It meets building height, it meets lot coverage. So they're proposing a 6-foot tall steel fence with brick columns on Willow Street. And then a 6-foot tall vinyl privacy fence and gate with brick columns is proposed along Hamilton Street. There is an existing 6-foot tall vinyl privacy fence along Mill Street, and the applicant is requesting that that be retained. And this is around the parking area. The transition zone itself does not have specific standards for fencing materials. We have the urban zone has their standards, and then the suburban zone has specific standards. The way in which the code is written is that the HDC has discretion to apply suburban or urban standards where applicable. The applicant has expressed that its existence is for security purposes, as the site does contain construction equipment. Should the HDC approve the fence as currently proposed, it is recommended that any visual impact be mitigated through landscaping. There needs to be some more clarity about the width of the curb cut. That is something that will also be looked at in site development review. It cannot exceed 40 feet according to our general zoning code. This says that in the urban transition zone, it shall be no greater than 24 feet in width. The applicant has expressed that they're moving large trucks in and out of this site. So that is why they would request something slightly larger than 24 feet wide. The off-street parking is behind the vinyl fencing, and the applicant is proposing to modify this existing parking to provide more uniformity in spaces. The landscaping is something that will, again, be reviewed in site development review. And as stated previously, it is recommended that additional landscaping be enforced to help mitigate the vinyl fencing. But per site development review regulations, they would need to be showing a certain amount of trees around the site perimeter or bushes. The utility equipment is not detailed on the submitted plans, but it will need to conform in that it'll need to be shielded from the public realm. For facade articulation and windows, the proposal meets all of the standards except the first story windows are not 3 feet above ground level. The applicant did end up providing me with a material breakdown, which I do not have up here. I got this today. The only thing that isn't in conformance is 28% of metal, and it was expressed to staff that this is for like structural reasons. And so if the HDC will approve the east side having 28% metal instead of the 20%, I recommend we add a condition. I'll get to that later, just so that that is actually shown in perpetuity. Lighting was not called out on the submitted plans, but there is lighting on the elevations. For sidewalks, there is an existing sidewalk along Harkrider Street, and portions of Willow Street frontage are paved. There is no sidewalk along Mill Street, and the current structures to be demolished are located in right-of-way. A proposed sidewalk is shown outside of right-of-way on the proposed plans along portions of Mill Street and in right-of-way along portions of Willow Street. But the sidewalk that is shown on the submitted plan terminates at the cell tower on Mill Street, whereas the the standards do call for the sidewalks on all street frontages. This is also something that is in plat review as well as site development review, the call for sidewalks. The sidewalk should extend outside of right-of-way along Mill Street and Willow Street. Standard details call for a 10-foot wide sidewalk with 7.5 feet of green space on Harkrider and a 5-foot sidewalk with 6.5 feet of green space along Mill and Willow Street. As stated, sidewalk locations and configuration will also be reviewed on the plat and construction enforced during SDR and building permit issuance/final. And then there's signage on the structure itself. The conditions are that the applicant must obtain all applicable building permits. The development shall undergo site development review in accordance with Article 10. The property shall be replatted prior to the Director of Planning and Development stamping the SDR plans. Sidewalks shall be constructed in right-of-way in accordance with Department of Transportation standard details. Landscaping will be reviewed as part of SDR. Additional landscaping may be required within the parking lot and along site perimeter. That second sentence, upon further review, could be removed as it is redundant in that the landscaping is reviewed with SDR. Number 6, fencing shall be removed from right-of-way. Landscaping shall be provided between the Mill Street fence and the street. Prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, applicant shall submit for review by planning staff a site plan and elevations showing structures built to appropriate setbacks, sidewalks and green space as described in number 4, landscaping to the north of the fence along Mill Street, material percentage breakdown to ensure compliance with standards. All signage shall comply with guidelines and regulations in the sign code and is permitted separate, signage is permitted separately. Some level of exterior building accent lighting should be provided, and HVAC equipment shall be placed in a manner to minimize its visibility from the street and screened adequately.
Thought I saw Brad. Oh, when'd you sneak in?
Gwen Apples,
Address, please.
1109 Main Street.
Thank you so much.
So Tara did a great summary, so I won't go too much into detail about the campus. It is an overarching plan. We're looking to update and clean up. We got to looking and nothing has been done. No new structures built on that campus since the 80s, I think. So we've always just kind of modified, added on, clean, tried to pretty up. But now they've made a commitment to build a new facility along Harkrider. To go over a couple of the things that we discussed that Tara mentioned was the kind of setbacks and spacing with the property lines. We've tried to account for right-of-ways with the plat review, but there is one property line setback on the south side along Willow that is 5 foot instead of 3 foot, and that's mostly because it's on Harkrider. It's a very public, fast-moving street, getting a little bit more breathing room between the edge of the street and the building. And with this being not in a traditional downtown settings with buildings and slow-moving traffic, we thought keeping that corner a little bit further back would be handy. So we are asking for the 2 foot additional. And then the other ones, if I estimated correctly, the Mill Street one will be right on the property line whenever the right-of-ways get back, and then same with Harkrider, that we should be at the very bottom of the site. It's kind of a triangle shape.
So Joanna, before we get too much further down the list, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on that setback. It's recommended at 3 and you're asking for 5. Okay, just wanted to make sure. And
The other ones should work themselves out,
Okay.
being right on the property.
Is that in line with the recently developed buildings that are on Harkrider or close-ish?
As far as the Harkrider setback, yes. The side streets, I can't remember what First Community on their
Okay.
setback.
Okay.
I didn't check that.
Okay.
Let's see what else. And then fencing and railings. Tara mentioned about the vinyl fence that we are requesting, and it's from the cell tower to the east. We are proposing in the T5, that's the more strict one, right? Urban, fully T5, I think. Yes. We do have wrought iron fence proposed just to kind of soften and show that, because our entrance kind of is a little bit towards the back. And so from those areas, we do have the wrought iron fence with brick pilasters. It's the area that's screening the parking and starting to screen their yard space. So that's the white fence there, the vinyl fence that's currently up. And it's to screen all the equipment and safety visually. We do still have some sections of chain link, which you can see everything in there. So yeah, we're trying to clean up the whole perimeter. Also at the cell tower, I believe there are 8-foot fence, and I can't remember if 6 foot versus 8 foot is is 8 foot acceptable? I'm sorry, I just thought of it this afternoon.
I'm going to double check for that's in the transitions. There's no specification
Okay.
there. So if it was the suburban regulations were the ones that were to apply, then it would be 6 feet. And then for urban,
Well, on the cell tower, there's a lease on it, and so they had their 8-foot fence already up to help screen all the stuff in there. We would like to screen it as well. So we would like to make it all match and fully screen that. So I don't,
there is no height limitation noted for the urban zone.
And so just to clarify for the commission, do we have to decide between urban or suburban on the fencing?
Not
Like,
necessarily.
okay.
The way it's
There's
written, it
flexibility.
says where applicable is
Okay.
the way that it's worded.
some. The curb cut, she's already talked about the large vehicles coming in and out. The same with there was a note about possibly more trees and islands in the parking lot area. We specifically tried to push the intermediate islands to the outside, so we made the outside ones 2 to 3 times larger in order for ease of trucks and trailers coming in and out. So instead of one down the middle, we just made the right and left islands larger. So it should be the same amount of green space. What else? Another thing that I don't think was mentioned is we are requesting tinted windows because there are a lot of windows on the front of the building, and with people working for the privacy and comfort of the people that are working in the offices, we are proposing tinted windows. They should be similar to the ones that are on the St. Joe High School. Yeah. That was all.
Everything else straightforward then? Y'all have any questions for the applicant?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even mention the sidewalks. My bad. We have proposed sidewalks to the cell tower currently, which that cell tower is, there's the L shape of the building. It's kind of right mid-block. Yes, right there. And so we have the sidewalks all the way around the building and then also to the entrance. That little portion on Willow Street towards the south, we didn't want to put sidewalks there because we don't want to push people into campus. There's a gate that goes directly into their storage yard. And so we were trying to keep people from walking straight down the middle of campus.
Right?
Brad has.
Yeah. Anyone? Thank you, Joanna. Anyone else here to speak on behalf of this?
But I'm here to speak for this. So I'm Brad Hageman with Naples, 1160 Factory Street, and thank you for your time tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions. But first and foremost, I just want to tell you how excited we are about this. This has been a long time coming. I know Joanna's given you an overview of the campus and kind of what this building is. This is the beginning of a multi-phase development that we hope to have over the next several years. But how we really got here was, we've been blessed to continue to grow over the years. And probably 10, 12 years ago, we were trying to decide what we were going to do to accommodate that growth. And we renovated a few of the facilities and things like that. But the fact is that was just a Band-Aid. And so we even looked at the possibility of trying to find some land, ideally here in the city, but even out in the county where we would just completely relocate from this campus. But really, at the end of the day, whenever you look at it, we've been in this neighborhood for over 70 years. And it started off closer to Oak Street. We've been here on the Garland Street for about 65 years. And at the end of the day, what we really wanted to do was to do something to improve this property and make an investment back in the neighborhood and back into downtown. And that's why we're here. And we think that this is a great start, and we're super excited about it and hope you all are as well. When we look at it, the whole design behind this is to try to accommodate future growth. And so we're trying to plan 10 to 15 years down the road. And if we continue to grow, then this building will allow us to add about 40 to 50% more of employees over that time. If we continue to grow. That's just in this building. That doesn't count other things that we would be doing on this campus. And so we hope that we'd be coming back at some point and wanting to add on, as we continue to grow. But that's really the background to it. It was, do we stay? Do we relocate? But we really feel that by tying this in and the work that Joanna's done with that design, we think ties the Hendricks College architecture. This is a great midpoint right there on Harkrider and then right into downtown and that reinvestment, and hopefully it spurs some other investment as well. I would like to, I know the sidewalks and things like that are a concern, or the fencing as well. We do own and operate several $1 million worth of construction equipment. And we have other materials, forms, things like that we store on that yard. And I will tell you, since we installed the vinyl fence, we have had no trespassing and we've had no thefts. And so it's a big deal for us to be able to screen all of that equipment. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. We met with the neighborhood whenever we did that fencing back several years ago for the aesthetic part of it, to get rid of the old chain link and provide something that at least whenever you're walking or driving down the street, it provides a decent aesthetic, and they've been very pleased with that at this point as well. I also met with the Linda Paxton and other members of the neighborhood too, to give them an overview of what we were doing, because again, it's an investment back into that community as well. And so what we would prefer to do is to be able to keep that vinyl fence for that safety and security reason. The other thing that we've learned as we build facilities like this in other parts, kids are pretty curious, right? Just by nature. And so by having that fence, they're not able to see in. And so they don't, again, it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't want to crawl over or crawl in and find out what's really going on the inside. So that's one of the reasons we'd like to maintain that. As proposed, first, if you don't mind, would you go back to the street shots? If you don't mind doing that. The photographs. So what we hope to do is immediately start on some demolition, which we think will vastly improve the property right out of the chute by getting rid of the cleaners, the old National Home Center, the Sonic, and a couple others, the metal buildings. And you can see behind you would be on your lower right-hand corner. That's the view down Mill Street. And just by getting rid of that and installing that wrought iron fence with the brick columns, we think is going to be great. And up to that point, we're not too concerned about screening what's on the backside of that. It's from that point east. And so what we would propose is that if you would allow us, is to keep the fence like it is and where it is. We'd build the sidewalk out to the cell tower. And then once the city improves Mill Street, then we would move that fence into the new property line to accommodate the right of way, and then finish that sidewalk at an appropriate time later on. And so that's really the comments that I have. Again, we're super excited about this and looking forward to hopefully transforming that frontage there on Harkrider and then the rest of that campus. But happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone to speak on or in opposition of this proposal? Hearing none, I'll bring it back into the commission. Thoughts, comments?
I like it. I think it's a beautiful building. I think it's gonna really kind of revitalize that area. I got no issues with any of the recommendations or anything like that.
Goodness.
Tara, one thing that a couple things I want to make note of. Do we need to make sure to annotate anything specific to the window tint?
Yes.
Okay.
We should add a condition that says windows on Harkrider may be tinted. Was it just it was just Harkrider? All windows may be tinted.
Okay.
All right, I have some other questions to go along with Corey, so we can make one recommendation about conditions we might need to add. Do we need to ask to change the setback of the sidewalk? Is that a condition we need to add, or is that already in there? From 5 feet instead of 3?
We should add a condition that says allow a 5-foot setback on Willow Street
Okay. And then do we need to add the condition for the vinyl fence screening the parking along, I can't remember the street.
Mill, right?
No,
Thank
no.
you.
To add landscaping or to?
I have requesting vinyl fence screening, parking, and landscaping. I was just typing.
Yeah.
Joanna's like extra, so I could get all the conditions. So do we need to add those too?
So if, this really ties back into what the commission would like to do regarding sidewalks and green space and the location of the fence.
So I feel like a good happy medium between the staff recommendations and looking forward would be to allow for some language that says, we'll continue the sidewalk as proposed following future street improvement. Because from what I understand, there's plans to do that. It's just being deferred until it makes sense. And so I think maybe that should be something that would be included in light of as proposed, maybe. Just a thought there on sidewalks specifically.
So this is a unique circumstance, right, where we do have the benefit of site development review and plating. Because we're bringing up street improvements, this is something that transportation can look at, and transportation does look at these proposals during site development review. So, but also to keep in mind that then they can request through that process in lieu fees, to pay in lieu fees rather than I don't know what the end result of that would be, but it is something that comes up during either plating or site development review. So if that is something where the commission would like to move forward with the sidewalks as proposed for the historic design review portion, but then change the condition of number 4, where right now it reads sidewalks shall be constructed in right-of-way in accordance with Department of Transportation standard details, that could be changed to sidewalks along all street frontages shall be reviewed during site development review. Does that make sense?
Would that be acceptable? Or is that,
Requesting for
Yeah.
it's to stay where it's at in that
Yes.
portion.
Yes.
That's what I meant, along the Mill Street portion?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
but just to clarify, based off of Brad's comments, that is the plan that fence would relocate with the expansion of that new road?
Whenever that happens.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it would whenever it happened, but to leave it current in this
Currently.
plan, to leave it current as is.
Okay.
so since the vinyl fence is pre-existing, do we even need to talk about it in this? Do I need to even add it as a condition? I mean, we are amending,
If it doesn't get,
it's not gonna get moved yet. So do I need to even add it as a change to the conditions, to the recommendation?
it shall be,
It's gonna stay for now.
Yes.
Correct?
so to remove fencing shall be removed from right-of-way, number 6, to just cross that out. Okay, but that, because this, like I said, does come into the right-of-way conversation, once there's more conversations, I don't know if that is going to necessarily be permissible on every single step down
Correct.
the road.
Yeah. I think we
Okay,
just want to get HCC approval.
Understood.
and
Okay.
then we'll-
Proposed, so a condition would be proposed fencing may stay. Help me. For
I
those.
almost wonder, yeah, and
yeah.
It's
I think
also
you
modified
remove
for-
6, but I have a clarifying question because it seems like the fence, the sidewalks, and landscaping would be part of the site development review process, correct?
Mhm.
So could we just have something that speaks to that, those specific items would be addressed in the site development review? Because it seems like we're 4, 5, and 6 all seem to go together.
Mhm. So we have number 2 as development shall undergo site development review in accordance
Right.
with Article 10. So then we could remove the sidewalk shall be constructed in right-of-way.
Six.
I don't want to go that far, but again, I'm just
But
one voice. but-
what I'm proposing is that we change it to, because we kind of have to affirm something, right? So the recommendations would be that, we allow the fence to stay along Mill Street. The setback, is that what we're talking about, 4, 5, and 6? And the concrete pavers and permeable pavings pending site review for something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I
So
think,
that means that you have the permission of the Historic District Commission. Okay.
and I think that we're, for the sidewalks to also have that pending, I think
Mhm.
that's good, because that's, if somebody, when people are comparing, right?
right.
They don't see like, why
Yes.
weren't sidewalks even mentioned
Yes.
in this
Right.
situation? They see that this was understood to be a broader conversation with
Mhm.
transportation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do think it is worth pointing out that this is a unique project because of the scale, but then
Mhm.
also the transitional zoning
Mhm.
and then the complexities to it being a phased approach, because it's an important but unique project.
That
So-
also take off the landscaping on the north under 7 sidewalks. The bullet
Yeah,
points.
the bullets.
Well, I think that's still site plan and elevations showing. You definitely need to remove the second bullet because it refers back to 4, which would go away. Tara, how do we make sure that we address the things that they need to in the HDR review or storage district review, but then also in preparation for site development review, they have everything that they need. So it's a continuous process. Because the thing that I want to make sure that we try to do is that it's streamlined for people and it's done in a way that we don't miss something and then they have to come back to us.
Right.
And so if there is something that's missed, it can hopefully be handled administratively at the staff level.
How do we confirm the things we need to confirm while also keeping it ambiguous enough
Yes.
to where if you need to change it or tweak it, you can also.
Yes, yes.
So, in light of the conversation about deferring the sidewalk as well as some of that perimeter landscaping along Mill Street, I think it is okay to remove number 7 altogether, because during site development review, planning staff, and even if I wasn't to be the one reviewing the site development review plan, because everybody in the planning department does that, we would be making sure that it goes to appropriate setbacks, that the sidewalk and green space is built in conformance, whatever that decision is at that time, landscaping and the material percentage. So I think that it is okay to remove number 7 altogether.
Okay, so then with that statement, it seems like the only conditions that would need to stay are 1 through 3, 8 through 10, and then adding 1 for window tint. Is that correct?
Let me look at her. Proposed sidewalks to cell towers, so that would be the sidewalk one. Requesting 8-foot fence to match cell tower fencing. Do we need to add that?
Oh, yes, so that would be new fence. And we would propose that it would be the vinyl to match the other fence.
Okay, so yeah, so we need to add that we approve. We approve that 8-foot vinyl, let me add vinyl. Fence to match the cell tower fencing. Do we need to do anything about the islands to make them larger, because that has the appropriate amount of green space, but
But landscaping, sidewalks,
so
and
that would
setbacks
be
are gonna
part
be
of number
addressed in the,
7.
yep.
Okay, so we need to add the tinted windows. And what did we decide about and the setback is part of number 7, so we can remove that.
We keep that in there,
Sure.
that setback is okay with y'all? Excuse
Yes.
me.
That's fine.
Comes out sometimes. Just for documentation. And then same with the material percentage breakdown. It's at 28% instead of,
Okay, yes, that's right.
yeah, I forgot to give you that number earlier.
Okay, it is, okay, approve a 28% metal,
On
Got
the
it.
east elevation.
metal materials on the,
Is that, if we, should we say 28, or should it be more vague to,
Yes, I agree.
because I'm worried that
Yeah.
it becomes 29%.
so then we could say approve an exception pending staff review? Could
I
we
would
do
just
that?
keep that fourth bullet that has material percentage breakdown to ensure compliance with standards.
Up to 30%. I don't think we'll go more than 2.
Okay. Up to 30%. Is that acceptable? Okay.
So to make sure we're capturing that, the sidewalks were discussed, the
Mhm.
landscaping, as well as material, we could write for number 2, development shall undergo site development review in accordance with Article 10, which shall include but not be limited to sidewalks, landscaping, and material percentage breakdown.
Can you, again?
But not be limited to sidewalks, landscaping, and material percentage breakdown.
But that does not get them to the 30% exception that we have to approve. So we still need to approve that separately, don't we?
So in Article 10 standards, they would still be limited by that 20%, but what they would just need to do an exception. So at this point, it could,
We would do a variance at that time.
yeah,
for
they
the
can do
SDR. But I think
Yeah.
having this approval would be handy.
Okay, so I'm a material percentage, so I'm gonna take out the material percentage. I'm gonna leave in the material percentage breakdown, but I'm gonna add that, this is what I'm gonna move, if no one else does. So, and then y'all can change it. HDC approves up to, now that means you're limited 30% metal materials. Option. We can argue about this after I
Yeah.
motion it.
That works.
That does, okay. And then, what was the other one we needed to add? We
Window
needed
tint.
Window tint, the setback 5 instead of 3 feet. The self-out, okay. All right. I motion that, the applicant must obtain all applicable building permits if and when a certificate of appropriateness is granted. Applicant shall provide proof of appropriate licensure of professionals, I guess y'all don't have any of those, performing the work to the building's permit department. Development shall undergo site review in accordance with Article 10, which shall include sidewalks, landscaping, material percentage breakdown. The Historic District Commission approves up to 30% metals materials breakdown exception on the east. Is that right? On the east elevation. The property shall be replatted prior to the Director of Planning and Development stamping the site development review plans. We were going to take out number 4
Mhm.
and 5. Number 6.
Mm.
Prior to issuance of certificate of appropriateness, applicant shall submit for review we didn't need number 7, did we?
Yeah, that was
Strict,
Strike-
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
strict-
take
strict-
out number 7, so I'm not that one. All right, all signage shall comply with OCDOD guidelines and regulations detailed in the Conway Sign Code. All signage is permitted separately from all review and building permit processes. Some of exterior building accent lighting should be provided. This element will be viewed as part of the site development review. HVAC equipment shall be placed in a manner to minimize its visibility from the street and screened adequately. One property line setback along Willow that is 5 feet instead of 3 feet will be allowed. At the cell tower, HDC will approve an 8-foot vinyl fence to match the cell tower fencing. HDC will approve tinted windows for privacy and comfort. Oh, do
On
you need
the vinyl-
sidewalks to the cell tower? No.
No, I think that
sidewalks are-
would be covered in the other one.
Okay.
I will say the cell tower 8-foot vinyl fence matching existing fencing.
Okay, matching,
versus-
okay, yeah, I put cell tower
Yep,
fencing,
you're
matching
good.
existing. I
Oh.
amend that to say that I'm matching, but I don't have to, because I'm still in my motion.
Hey, you're doing good. I don't know how
Cell
you're doing
tower
it.
fencing. Okay, that's what I move.
So we have a
Second.
motion and we have a second. And just for those folks that are here and that may be watching, this has been more of a collaborative approach than we typically would, just because of this is probably the most involved in modifications we've made to the conditions that came from the staff. And so that's the motivation behind that. A motion and a second. What discussion do we have on the motion that's on the floor?
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations and thank you for your investment in downtown. Tara, will the staff on their like formal conditions, will y'all make sure that it's all jives in the way that it's supposed to? Like,
Yes.
okay,
So.
because I know our language may not be the
Yeah.
most technical.
Yes,
So-
I'm sure like,
Okay, perfect.
No, I think Jenny, you've done a great job. And so I'm actually waiting, like, send me those minutes. I know you took really good notes. And yeah, we'll get that on the certificate of appropriateness. We'll get that out and then finish up the other processes and move forward.
Perfect. Then we'll move to item 2, additional business.
So the only thing that I would like to bring up for the record is that there was an application made for 801 Locust Street, and notification had gone out to the neighbors. It was for the windows at the courthouse. However, they did not, it was for changing windows at the courthouse. However, they did not need a building permit for that, and it is in the design overlay district, not within Robinson. And this was something where I reached out directly to the state for confirmation. And if the regulations are local regulations, even on something that's nationally registered, if they do not preclude someone making changes, and the process pointing towards a certificate of appropriateness, we don't enforce that. So that, I hope that made sense. I know I got a little
Okay.
garbled there, but that is why it was removed. It was withdrawn because they did not need to go for a public hearing for that project.
But then will those windows still be expected to be in line?
So then that becomes under the purview of the owner of the property.
Okay.
So unless our guidelines specifically state that if something is on the register in the overlay, then all changes to the exterior need to go before HDC. So unless we have something like that actually stated in our guidelines, that's not something that's under our purview.
Okay.
Now, if they had needed a building permit, then they would have needed to come before HDC.
Okay. Is there a notification process to strongly encourage that any modifications wouldn't jeopardize the status of said building?
So I spoke with the applicant
Okay.
and encouraged them to talk to the state to make sure that they were not doing anything to jeopardize.
Okay.
And they expressed that they had spoken with the state.
Okay. Because the assumption would be that would be the case, but just
Mhm.
thinking about future
Yes.
cases that may not be.
Yeah.
Other additional business? If not, then I will entertain a motion for us to adjourn. Got a motion,
Second.
a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank y'all.